being aware of the emotion as it rises rather than after it rose, being aware as it's rising, not to suppress it and shove it back down, but to let it rise, then use your set of tools that you have, whatever they may be, to help yourself with that emotion.
Welcome to Supernormalized, the podcast where we challenge the conventional, break boundaries, and normalize the seemingly supernatural. Join me, CJ, as we explore less uncharted realms of existence and unravel the mysteries of life experience. My treasured listeners, if you have a life story or healing modality or unique knowledge that you'd love to share, reach out to me at Supernormalized, that's Supernormalized with a Z, at proton.me. Let's together embrace acceptance of the supernatural and unusual as what it really is, completely normal. Today on Supernormalized, I have the pleasure of introducing Katische, a specialist in complex soul-based prognosis and the finder of soul obstructions at the quantum level. With her bespoke application of Apometrics, Katische provides diagnostic relief from various forms of soul obstructions, including curses, hidden vows, hexes, occult spells, and limiting beliefs. She also addresses techno, sorcery, neuroweapons, entity attachments, astral fragments, and psychic hooks. Katische's expertise extends to healing the mental and emotional repercussions of these obstructions, ensuring the recovery and reintegration of fragmented soul aspects. Today, we talk with Katische all about her process and gain an understanding of what she's doing, which is quite wild, so I'm sure you'll enjoy the show. I certainly did. Welcome to Supernormalized, Katische. Katische, I've been through and looking at your bio and your information that you provided about your work, and it's fascinating. But there's one thing that actually caught me, and I was wondering, can you explain Apometrics and what that means?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, thank you for having me on the podcast, and it's lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
Apometrics is something that I have, I guess I would use the words not stolen, but modified from reading. It's a Brazilian doctor who's no longer with us. The Brazilians have some amazing ways at looking at the way that the body is affected by entities that we can't see.
Yes.
And so there's this amazing book, which I'll say out loud, which is called Spirit and Matter, which was written by Dr. Jose Lacerda de Azevedo. I'm sure I'm butchering his name. And it was his way of using a method of treatment. He was in charge of a psychiatric hospital in Brazil.
Yeah.
And he was able to cure and heal people based on using the principles of energy, understanding that what affects the mind can be that which is around us. And basically he used mediums, which is, I don't do this. He used a team of people, and they were able to examine a patient, and then the medium would be able to connect with the entities that were embodied inside the person that were causing the mental illness or the physical illness.
Yeah.
And they would be able to remove these entities or human beings or whatever they were, and then return them to the universal mind or whatever you want to call it. And then they would look back into all of the incarnations of the person that was experiencing this problem and say, what's the root cause of this?
Yeah.
Is it a behavioral thing? Is it a thought pattern? Was it an action? Did they commit a crime in a previous lifetime? What is it? And they found some fascinating things about how all of your incarnations impact your present incarnations. Because as we know, all time is at the same time. So you're not just yourself, CJ, living right now, but there's 144 versions of you, including yourself, alive all at once. in one moment of time, and you're all impacting each other. And
Mm.
so if we only look at what is happening in this lifetime for people who are experiencing extreme circumstances, extreme obstructions in their life, then we're missing out on what is happening in all dimensions. And I learned to do what he has done through using a pendulum and using my psychic ability. So what happens in Dr. Jose's world is that the medium uses their their psychic energy, to embody the entity so that the doctor can talk to them. But what I've done is, so my background is in sound healing and spirit releasement therapy and past life regression therapy, is I've used the modalities that I've trained in. And then I went deep into sound healing with an amazing, amazing human being. I did it all online, called Tom Kenyon. And he works with the Arcturians and the Hathors, non-earth beings, to learn how to heal through the encoded sound messages. And that has allowed me to really learn how to use the biophotonic energy in my body. Now, I know I've just said a whole lot there, but biophotonic energy is the white light that is encoded in your DNA and all of your cells. And so what you do then is that with intention, you examine the history of the soul, and then you can use your pendulum. It's a very special pendulum, to psychically capture any entities that are in that soul and return them to the universal mind, and then heal any psychological constructs that have occurred because of that entity being there. And then these are like limiting beliefs or sabotaging behaviors, or even creation of self-manifesting entities like, anything that you, a tulpa, which is a thought form, and bring that soul back to balance. The next level of that is that you actually don't need the pendulum. You can do it by thought alone, but that's the next level up.
Yeah.
So that's it in a nutshell. I borrowed his system, took away the medium because I had the mediumistic qualities myself, and then combined all the stuff that I had been practicing in the other therapies and created my own, and that's what works for me.
Wow. Okay. So that's quite a journey in itself. Now, I was going to ask you, how did you get here? I mean, what happened to you?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? Yes. So I have been questioning my entire life why I felt obstructed. Is the correct word? Obstructed.
Yeah.
I felt like I was given a perfect set of circumstances to enter this world in, yet I felt that no matter what I tried to do or be or achieve or set up, it would always fail. And so I studied from the greats like Tony Robbins and every single mind master that you could, knowing that I was impacting my outcomes, all the manifesting stuff, all the spiritual stuff. And I was still like, this is not working. Why am I the only person on earth it seems to not be working for? And I was like, is there something wrong with me? I didn't have any family issues. I grew up without childhood issues, so, born blessed in terms of most people come to earth and they've got trauma upon trauma to get over. I was like, there's no trauma there. But when I got to adulthood, the minute that I tried to step out into the workforce, I had a degree, and then I went and got a master's degree, and most people would have looked at my academic background and my work record and gone, well, she's going to be this, this, and this. Like, she's got the world at her oyster. And nothing would manifest. Nothing would go my way. I would live continuously in different places. Relationships never worked. I would often get people say to me, oh, they get really strong reactions to my energy. They would find me too intense, too much, or they just really didn't like me. And it was when I was in 2000 in lockdown. A lot of people would say this. They had big changes in lockdown. I decided, okay, well, we're not going to do anything for a couple of years. So let me take this time. And I was really drawn to crystal singing bowls, and I started to work with energy. And as soon as I started to work with energy, my psychic abilities just went boom. And I realized that I could take people into past lives. And when I became more sensitive to energy, I started to understand my own energy and I
Mm.
started to understand my own thoughts. And I was like, yeah, there's something else here. There's something not right. And it was when I started my podcast. I started working. I had a guest on, Tina Irwin, and I said to Tina, because we were talking about ghosts with Tina, I said, Tina, you know, I think there's something going on because I had a few comments about people not liking my energy. Can you help me and have a look?
Yeah. Wow.
And it was when Tina and I did a private session and we discovered what I was carrying with me from all my lifetimes that just blew my mind and
Oh.
really opened up to the world of negative energy, disincarnated human beings. Like I was carrying from many, many lifetimes a lot of energy from all the things that I'd done in other lifetimes.
Mm.
Um, and at first, it felt like I was a complete victim, to be honest with you. Why? Why me? And then I started to learn to go into my own past lives and examine my own past lives and see who I was, what I did, and how that affected the way I was. Because who you are in all incarnations attracts either positive energy or negative energy, and you still carry the cords of attachment to the people who you were incarnated with in those lifetimes if you have stuff to clean up.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, and so I learned that I was being physically haunted by people in other lifetimes,
Yes.
using all sorts of things from black magic, uh, amulets, you name it, devices, you name it, I had it. And
Mm.
by learning how to remove it from myself, I learned how to do it for other people.
Yeah.
In a
Right.
very
Yeah.
long story back to that. Basically, yes, the same as like the kid who has a very strong illness as a childhood and they become that kind of a doctor. Well, yeah, I was blessed with having everything that I now remove from other people. So it's taken many, many years of uh, sticking my hand in the mud to see what I would find.
That's a good way to put it. I've heard from other magicians that I know that if you don't clean up your ancestral line appropriately and authentically, then that's how you get ghosts that actually attach to you. So that resonates with that exactly. So I'm really fascinated by that too. So it seems like you could even almost say it's like a curse. It feels like being cursed at times. Is that how you felt as well?
Yeah, and curses is one of the things that I have discovered.
Yes.
Uh, Curses are very, very interesting. And I'll say this because I didn't realize the magnitude of how much a curse can affect somebody. So a
Yes.
curse can be simply enacted or invoked. You don't have to be a witch or a magician or a sorcerer by your words. You say something out loud or think it negatively that you intend for that person to have harm. Guess what? Your intention creates effect. And that intention and that curse lasts until it is revoked. So I mean
Mm.
eternally.
Yes.
So you've got to go back and clean up what you've done in other lifetimes. And let me tell you, if you study ancient Egypt, the coffins, the sarcophaguses, sorry, in the tombs and on the walls were painted with curses, and these were eternal curses.
Mm. Mm.
So I have actually had to help people who in previous lifetimes uh, pissed off their Egyptian pharaoh and the curses on the walls because I've literally got all the documents of the curses. I've had to plow through them,
Wow.
line by line,
Yeah.
according to the incarnation, which say um, we need to protect the pharaoh on his journey up through the boat into the sky,
Mm.
and we enact curses that will protect the pharaoh from any of his enemies,
Yeah.
and this will be for all eternity. So yes, a curse can be something that is intended magically or in everyday lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I believe curses are, I would say I know that curses are a part of everyday life, and a lot of people are actually unconsciously cursing everything and everyone around them. And I'm even guilty of that, being in the car, driving on the freeway, like, what's this dickhead doing?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But that's still a curse, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, you've got to be really careful with your words. And we're just human
yeah,
beings, right? So we
yeah,
slip up. But the minute that I guess the beauty of finding an and examining your own history. And if you find a curse that was placed on you, right, is the power that you then change your own behavior. But then the real thing is, are you brave enough to say, okay, I've been cursed, right?
Hmm.
Somebody's going to help me, so I'm going to clean that up. But what did I do to attract that energy?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you need to go back one step backwards. And I'm talking for people who are really blocked. Okay, the average Joe doesn't necessarily need this, but if you are really, really blocked in your life or cursed in your life, you've got to go back and then say, what action with that person who I may not even realize that I was incarnated with them in this other lifetime. What did I do to them for them to
Mm.
do that to me in another lifetime? You've got to clean up your mess.
Yeah, yeah. But when people are actually right deep in the pinball machine of drama and hell, it's really hard to do that because you just think, oh, it's all coming at me, and that's because, of all that stuff. And, you got to figure out a way to clean your life up that actually helps you to get through that. But it can be
Yes.
pretty hard at times when it's all happening at the same time. It feels like you're in the pinball.
Yes, it is very hard, and that's why I said it's like you have to trust. What I've learned is to take it from to take the duality that we're in here on Earth,
Mm,
the good and the evil, and to take it to that next level and say, okay, I'm in the thick of this good versus evil thing. I'm
yeah.
discovering the power of these evil thoughts, intentions, and entities.
Yes.
And how do I rise above that to take the non-dual perspective in a world that is dual and say, where's the message of love? Because actually, the negative entities or the curses or whatever, the demons, you name it, they are sent to us so that we can examine what is dark in our soul that needs to be brought out, shone a light at, so that we can be a bigger and better person, so that we are able to be the light for the world. It's a
Mm,
message of training. It's really a message of training. And now, when things happen to me, um, in that split second, now I can go, oh, right. My problem here. What did I just think? Oh, I had a jealous thought. Oh, we haven't cleaned up jealousy yet. Rightio, let's go do jealousy today, Katish. You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Excellent, excellent. So you've enabled yourself to have like almost instant um, s- apprehension of the both dual sides of it, of the nature of anything that's happening. So that way you can step above it and rise above it and pull it out of your system.
Yeah, wherever there's fear, there's the ability to get stuck in it,
Ah, yes.
or to rise above it. Where there's
Yeah,
fear, you've got the chance to transmit it into love, but you have to have that strength of character to do that.
right. Can you provide some examples of the types of curses, hidden vows, hexes, and occult spells that you have successfully addressed in your work?
Yeah, sure. Oh, um, so many different types. We can take curses back from, here's an example, a curse inflicted upon one Roman soldier to the other at the point of death.
Yeah.
I curse your family in eternity. The Romans were really good at
Yeah, but, but
that.
but you know, but you're just being stabbed and you're actually bleeding to death. Why wouldn't you say that? I mean,
Yeah, that's right. Of course,
you're
you're
pretty angry at
angry.
the time. He's like,
Yeah,
"Come on, you just killed me."
yeah. I mean, and it's written. Take a look at Romeo and Juliet in Shakespeare.
Yeah, it's
You have
tragic.
to understand that in the Middle Ages and before, this is how they attack their enemies.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um. Here's another example. I'll give you an example from my own private life of a curse in action. Um. And I will be as vague as possible with whilst being specific. I'm a single mum with two boys after a divorce, and been a very very long time. And I've dated obviously in between. Had and this was part of my growth period to understand my whole soul's journey with relationships. But had a really bad relationship with a person who we had one of those really short, sharp, and then ended very nastily relationships.
yeah,
And I never saw them again, except for one day I was driving my car and I went through a set of lights and I somehow felt the urge to turn around. And there was nobody on my side of the road. It was a double lane highway. And I turned around and in my rear view mirror, I caught a person in a car giving me the finger, and they were at a traffic light turning the corner.
Huh.
And I was like, did I do something wrong? And then I realized the car and the number plate and the person. I knew who it was. It was that person that I dated. But I didn't think
Ah.
about that any longer. I was like, wow. I literally was like, I'm so sad for that person. It's been like 4 years and they're still really mad at me. Oh,
Mm.
please, somebody help them. Send some angels to
Yeah.
help them with their anger.
Yes.
Um, several months later, and I mean several months later, I was coming on the other side of the road, exactly same set of lights, exactly. I stopped at that set of red lights and a bus plowed right into me.
Oh no.
Didn't stop. Oops, sorry. Didn't stop. And I was like, what just happened? There was no other cars, just me and the bus.
Yeah.
And I realized that this was the same set of lights.
Yes.
And I realized in that moment that this was a message that the action of the obviously he wished me to die or
Mm.
something similar in his angry moment when he
Yeah.
recognized me.
Yeah.
Um, I
You,
was not physically harmed because Archangel Michael came in and put himself
yeah.
between the bus and me.
Yeah.
But my car was damaged. The bus was hugely damaged.
Yeah.
But I was very cognizant at that time. Oh my goodness. If I had not been doing positive things in the world, there was an exit point.
Yeah. Right. So he charged that moment in time with that energy and that space right there and then, and it just held and waited like a trap for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was a good lesson. At
Yeah.
the time it wasn't. I was shaken like you wouldn't believe. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got that. This is part of, understanding also your exit points and that, that we do set up exit points for ourselves and then others
Mm.
help us create exit points that are magnetized in time. Um, Amulets are another example. People use amulets for protection, so the Isis's anchor is an example of
Yeah.
an amulet. The cross is an example of an amulet, but they can be, used to, you see priests to ward off negative spirits. They can be used as
Yeah.
well. So another example is that I have discovered where an amulet has been used. So what happens is people with black magic, they go to, and this is disgusting, I'm sorry, but they go to a cemetery
Mm.
with a created amulet or like a voodoo doll,
Mm.
and they place your name with that amulet in an open grave
Mm.
and put it down there. So it's using the energy um, of the corpse
Yeah. The dead spirit.
uh, and that
Mm.
spirit to anchor in your name, and then they cover it up so no one will ever find it. And that amulet becomes magnetized. And what happens is this doll that they create with the amulet, they will put it in the part of the body that they want it to actually um, attach to your
Effect.
etheric body. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it actually sits in your body. And what happens is that the magnetization creates dis-ease in your body.
Mm. Mm.
And so eventually, if it's not discovered, it will create a weak point that keeps breaking, or you keep bruising, or it will create a cancer or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
So when that's removed, obviously I'm not doing that myself, but I'm inviting the spiritual surgeons. So when in
Yes.
the afterlife, there
Mm.
are people who are surgeons in their human life
Yeah. Of
who
course.
choose to take on the role as a spiritual surgeon in the afterlife.
Yes.
And what they do is they remove that surgically for that patient,
Yeah.
and then they heal it. So Archangel Raphael comes in and heals it, and then that they demagnetize it, and then that can heal.
Mm.
Sometimes it's been described to me. I removed a device the other day for a client, and she said it burned for a few hours, like really burned, like fire, and then it was perfect, like the injury had never happened. Um, I've had one thing that I removed from my own foot, uh, and I have some perla. I actually took photos of the perla bruises that came up the next day.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so it really opened my mind in terms of what this happens. Uh, you know,
Yeah,
yeah, it's been fascinating, awful but fascinating.
yeah. Just rolling back a bit with that experience with the man in the car and in your accident. Have you done any work to clear that person out of your life?
Um, eh, yes. So, one of the things that I've learned is to remove the ACA cords.
Yeah.
I had already removed the ACA cord, which is the cord that's between two people. Anybody that you connect to, like I'm connecting to you right now,
Mm,
anybody,
yeah.
we connected via the ACA cord. And so they can send thoughts through the ACA cord that can hurt you. I've had people fall off toilets because they were sitting on the toilet minding their own business, and then a negative thought came through that ACA cord and it propelled them off the toilet,
Oh, wow.
literally. Um, your thoughts are really, really powerful.
Absolutely.
Um, yes, so I removed the ACA cord, but the work that I had to do back then after that was then to go back and clear the psychological constructs. So the you have psychic attachments that happen between two people, and you have negative memories as well. You can have created limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging acts, and so that's where I go back and I use the pendulum. I have this particular uh, di- diagnostic tool, which I learnt through another very talented gentleman who has this amazing book called Pendulum Apometrics,
Mm,
and can do that then to, with intention, remove anything that is still holding you back from that person.
yeah.
Um, I will admit I was paranoid about that for a while, but
Yes.
one of the things that I found fascinating with uh, ghosts is that because I interact so much with ghosts based on the work that I do as spiritual
Mm,
service, um, they tell you what's written on your aura.
yes.
They have the ability to see that. And
Right.
so I was sitting there getting a little bit upset about this because I'm only human. And I've had a ghost float in for help. And they've just said to me, he can't hurt you ever again. And I'm like, oh, hi. All right. Before I cross you over, how do you know that? It's written in the aura.
Ah.
So don't worry. Okay. All right. Good. Looks like I've done my work.
Excellent. Okay, so you don't have to do anything like binding or anything like that, so you're free of that possible
No,
future
no, no
events.
binding. No, you must be very careful not to do any bad magic back on them.
Yeah.
Because do you know why?
Okay, tell me.
You don't know who that person is in other lifetimes.
Yeah.
That person that has hurt you in this lifetime might be your son, might be your daughter, might be your mother. You got to be very careful. And that's the thing. When people do curses and they don't know the identity of the soul, you don't know who you're cursing. In your next lifetime, that person may be your absolute beloved person.
Mm, mm. Oh, you work it out then.
Yeah. So never, ever, ever do anything negative towards anybody because you don't know who they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Never wish ill on anybody, no matter what harm they do in the world, no matter how catastrophic that level of harm, you don't know that soul's journey and you don't
Mm,
know who they are to you.
I hear that. I hear that.
Mm.
They chose the same travel brochure we did, and we looked at it and went, yeah, well, that's a good life. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So,
You've got to be really careful.
so what techniques or methods do you employ to deal with techno, sorcery, neuroweapons, and negative memory imprints?
Yeah. Um, so the techno sorcery, okay, this is where we get into when you have negative energy, right? It starts off like, let's talk about it, starts off with little negative energy. So you start off with that negative thought. And if you keep going into the world of negative energy, you attract other identities that are of bigger and greater negative power. Start doing things
Mm,
like negative energy back to people. You start attracting all kinds of negative entities right up to demons. Now, this is the part where not a lot of people will talk about it. If you get negative enough, you will then attract demons who are contracted to nefarious non-earth beings.
Yes.
And these non-earth beings will put in devices into the skull and into the spine, which are aimed to cause constant pain and to attack the neuro system and to attack your thoughts so that you're permanently thinking negatively. Okay. And this is when then this techno sorcery items, whatever they be, a plate or a screw, or they can range in ability
Yeah.
and kind of device,
Mm.
depending upon where they come from. And wherever there is some kind of technological device attached to your neurological system, there will be unfriendly non-earth beings who are there to guard it. So the first thing you have to do is to disarm those devices. You've got to turn them off, right?
Yeah.
Which I do using the pendulum and my psychic thought by identifying where it is in the body.
Yes.
But you must then have the spiritual team lined up to then remove that device with the spiritual surgeons. They're the only
Yeah.
ones who can actually do that, spiritual surgeons, to have the white light go back in to heal that.
Yeah.
And then you've then got to psychically capture all of those non-friendly, non-earth beings who are in the body around that device and return them to the universal mind. And then you can deal with the psychological constructs to repair that. So it's a multiple step process, and you don't want to do it in the wrong order. Otherwise, the non-earth beings will come for you.
Right.
So don't.
You've
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You've had that.
Many times, many times, all sorts of beings.
What happens?
They literally throw stuff at you, like psychically. They attack your aura. They will attack your aura until they actually break through your aura, and then you can physically feel them attacking you. It's not nice. And because they've got a different frequency and vibration,
yeah,
then you feel sick. When there's a non-earth being around that intends harm towards me, I get dizzy. I want to pass out because their vibration is a different vibration to us, and then you can feel the ill intent.
Right.
So, yeah, you need to have your ducks in a row, and you need to have your spiritual team working for you. You need to have, when you're working with that sort of thing, it's not something to be done lightly with. I have a team of spiritual animals
Yes.
from different dimensions that help me. And I have the archangels, and I have an alliance with Hathors, Arcturians, and Syrians. So, yeah, don't go there unless you're a specialist in it. Get some help from somebody who is qualified to work with it, because and they don't go, to be honest, it's hard because they don't go around telling people. So Nick Salzman is the guy for the Pendulum Apometrics. They don't go around telling people that they do this because it attracts. If somebody's on a mission to help people remove these sorts of things, they're going to get mad at you.
Yeah, for sure they are. I mean,
so you've got to have your team aligned up to help you, because one human being is not enough.
Well, look, overarching in all of this sort of work, there is a spiritual war going on, whether people believe it or not.
Right.
And everyone is, on the battlefield, whether they believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of self-protection and becoming aware of it. So if you open a door to anything, that's, that you're going to have trouble.
Yeah.
You've got to watch out what you're opening the doors to.
Yes. And my recommendation, apart from cleaning up your thoughts, which is a really hard thing to do if you've got the entrenched negativity that's caused by ghosts and negative entities that are around you, make sure, and please, I did a degree in wine marketing and spent many years in wineries, so it's not against alcohol. Don't drink alcohol. Don't do anything that is going to put you in an altered state of consciousness unless you know how to protect yourself.
Yes.
Don't smoke, because drinking and any form of smoking, vaping, psychedelics, sorry, I know a million people are going to disagree with me there, shreds your aura. Your aura is your immune system and is also your protecting device. And the best thing you can do is to look after your health and your mental well-being and make sure that you're not willingly, consciously participating in an activity that shreds your aura. That's the first thing that you can do,
Mm.
so that you don't. If you have a fully intact aura, you can be surrounded by negative entities and not be physically hurt if it's a strong aura. That's the important thing. And the second thing is to understand that yes, Earth is in this spiritual warfare between good and bad, but do you know why? It's because we chose to be in a dual environment. It's part of the agreement that we signed up to as spiritual beings. Let's go have, I call it the Jumanji. Let's go play around a Jumanji, and we're going to pretend that we are these people and we're on this planet and there's complete duality. Right? Let's see how we all go. Let's learn emotions. Let's earn vibration. You have to get through the game of Jumanji and get all your badges in duality to then go to the next game, which is duality on other locations, to get to the where the Hathas are, which is non-dual being.
Right, right, right. It's definitely a journey for all of us, and it's good that you've made yourself a guide in that for people, and that's appreciated the way that you do that too. I mean, you have obviously a consciousness around this, and it's come to you over time from your own experiences. Now, can you explain your approach to releasing false spirit guides and vows from past incarnations that do not align with your current spiritual or religious beliefs? I mean, how do you actually do that? I mean, is there any simple methods that people could take up?
Mm. Yeah, so that's again a difficult one because famous for this myself, we tend to chop and change spiritual beliefs, don't we? I'll try
Mm.
this out, I'll learn this. I went from being born into a Christian family to, uh, after my divorce, going full on into Buddhism. And then after that, going into just non religious spiritual beliefs. Uh, the soul goes through and will experience all religions and all beliefs and gods of many kinds. It has to, because that's part of our journey. Let me see how I act in this situation. Let me see how my soul shrinks or grows according to these set of religious beliefs. Let me throw in a few fake spirit guides to test my knowing. And the point is that there is a very specific way that source energy, or whatever you want to call the creator, interacts with us. And there are very specific truths about their behavior and what they want for us that you are tested with these religions, and you are asked to be true to your original knowing, to source energy. That's the point of it, and to help people on your journey to really know the difference between what source is really like, what source energy is truly about, versus what the different religious experiences are asking you to do. If you have these vows to other religions and gods from other lifetimes, these can be revoked through the work in the Akashic records. If you have a skilled Akashic practitioner, they can take you to your gatekeeper or record keeper, however you want to call it, and you
Yeah.
can say to them, I'm aware that I may have a lifetime where I have agreed to a vow to a god or somebody that I think is a false god or a false spiritual entity,
Mm.
false spirit guide. May you help me? And the gatekeeper will be like, well, what's your intention? Why do you want to do this? And you'll have to explain your reason. And then the gatekeeper will open the record. They will revoke that vow. Then they will heal the record. And then they will tell you if you need to do anything else. Um, they will also be fairly blunt if it's not your time, or you need to go and do something else prior. But yes, your Akashic gatekeeper can open the record to each lifetime. So yeah, you can't just go and willy-nilly say, I tried this. You can't say, I
Yeah.
revoke all vows to false spirit guides and false gods, blah, 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 just by yourself. No, it requires a trip into the Akashic records with your Akashic gatekeeper to do it properly. And you must have the intention and explain the reason why it's affecting you. So you've got to do some thinking around it.
Mm. Do you meditate?
Do I meditate? No.
No.
quite simply. I'm too busy doing all the spiritual work. So my form of meditation is um, regularly sitting down, having quiet time with sound healing music.
Mm, mm.
The Hathorian sound healing. I use basically Tom Kenyon sound healing music from the Hathors because that is pure ninth and tenth dimensional energy,
Yeah.
and I use that to rejuvenate my body, to clear my mind, and to bring in energy.
Hmm.
And so it's not like the traditional, like the Buddhist or the spiritual, sitting on a mat and meditate.
Hmm.
Um, because I found that I couldn't sit still, I couldn't clear my mind, and I struggled with it for a good 20 years. And it wasn't until I started using Deepak Chopra's meditations, which used sounds and key mantras, that I started to get a breakthrough.
Yeah,
And once
great.
I hit that sound element, I was like, the sound is the key for me. I need to
Yeah.
go with the sound.
Yeah.
Um, because that sound changed the energy inside of me. And for people who aren't struggling with lots of intrusive thoughts, lots of potential stuff going around their head, if your brain is not busy all the time,
Yeah.
like mine was because of the extra load I was carrying around, it's impossible to have that silence and quiet moment to yourself because it's always noisy up there.
Yeah.
And so when you use sound, the sound transmits the energy, the light codes, and the healing behind it that allows you to get that stability and peace of mind and allows you to come to grounding in ways that other people who can sit on a mat and just clear their mind can do naturally. Like I
Mm.
said, my story is not the average story. And so I help people who are struggling with intrusive thoughts, suicidal ideation, severe anxiety and insomnia, that sort of stuff. People who are really in a difficult place and have
Yeah.
tried things like sitting on a mat to meditate and can't do it. So that's my long answer is I use sound as my form of meditation. Yeah, but I do it lying down. I don't do it sitting up.
Okay, great. So part of these stories that people find themselves in that cause issues in their lives, that can be caused sometimes by entities in the home or negative ley lines and things like that. Do you work with that sort of stuff too?
So entities in the home is a standard procedure that you have to clear every house of every client that you work with first.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going around in circles. And if you have entities in your house, there's a reason for it. Firstly, you know, sure, you may have just bought a house and there
Yeah.
was a ghost there,
Yeah.
but there's a reason that you were attracted to that house in the first place.
Yeah.
So we've got to figure out why. But before we can figure out why, we have to clear the house, close any portals or vortexes, and work with the house spirit to clear the energy in the house to bring up the vibration of the house. And people may go and work with a feng shui or whatever consultant as well, but I deal with what's in the house and why, and then that's always the very first thing that I deal with is what's in the house and why.
Right. Right.
It's just part of the
And
standard thing. It's like day one with a client is right. They fill out a form. Day two is send me a mud map of your house.
yeah. Okay.
Let's go.
And then you've cleared out the house, so there's no way they can be attacked again once you've started to clear them completely.
Yeah, you've got to do it through all dimensions of time too. It's not just,
Right.
and a lot of people don't get this right. A lot of people just go in and they get the mud map of the house and they clear the house and they're like, okay, it's clear, but they've just done 2023. You've got to go back through all the layers of time since the Earth began
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't know what has died on your land or been murdered on your land that is still there. This is very important in America or anywhere where you are near a battle zone. I have
Yes.
worked with clients who have had entire armies floating around their house because they didn't know they died.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
You
There's
have to get
plenty of
everyone's
battles that have
spirits
been
on.
fought. Yeah, plenty of
Yeah.
battles that were fought in the North versus South battles in America where the armies are still fighting.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, well, a lot of them don't realize they've died because they've died a traumatic death.
Yes, and I have had a client who was drawn to purchase a house, and it happened to be on a Native American burial site that he didn't realize. And when we dig down further, and he was not comfortable at night time, when we dig down further, a past life of his was buried on that site, died in
Wow,
battle.
wow.
There's a reason you're attracted to certain sites, and the
Yeah.
reason he was attracted to there was because, uh, and this is going to sound a bit weird, but the souls,
What is it yet? Come on.
yeah, I know, what isn't yet? I know the souls that have died that are still hanging around, and I've had this so many times now that I can't ignore it. Know that in a certain day, there's going to be a person that will be connected to that person that will be able to help them go to the light. I have this on recording on my podcast when I was doing the regression sessions and
Yes.
doing spiritual releasement therapy, and the person that's a ghost will literally say, "I've been waiting 3,000 years for you to turn up." I'll be like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, that's interesting." Or
Yes.
I have another client that goes, "Oh, yes, my Akashic gatekeeper says that this day was predestined." I'm like, "Oh, okay, radio."
Excellent.
I guess
Yeah.
that's how you know when you're doing what you're meant to do, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, in what ways do you facilitate the recovery and reintegration of fragmented soul aspects, and how does this contribute to overall well-being for people?
Oh, it's really important. Look, a lot of people talk about this in terms of inner child work. So if you have in any lifetime, let's just focus on the current lifetime, a situation where you experience something traumatic. This can be self-perception of trauma, meaning somebody else might be looking on and they wouldn't see that that moment in time was traumatic for you.
Yeah.
Your soul can fragment off. Okay, basically the trauma to you, your self-shame, guilt, fear, or whatever it is, goes, my ego and my sense of self has been fundamentally ruptured at this point in time. And it basically, this can happen in crashes as well, rape or whatever you want to call it. It sends off a little string. I call it a balloon string,
Mm.
silver thread, and you can see it. It's a little girl or a little boy of you just goes and parks itself over to the other side. And they go and hide in a corner or they wait. Now, the thing is, they take with them the emotion that they were feeling
At that time.
at that time, and
Mm.
you lose the opposite of it. So
Right.
um, you lose joy or whatever it is. And when you can bring that back in and reintegrate it, the person who reintegrates that fragmentation feels better. They immediately get an access of joy or whatever it is that was missing in their lives. So you can do this through inner child work, you can do it through shamanic journeying, you can do it through um, age regression. An age regression therapist will be able to help you reintegrate a soul fragment from this lifetime. Uh, Basically, somebody with their own, who's got really good powers of sight and good understanding of their own self, can take themselves into meditation, see that moment in time. All you have to do at your own self level is to be able to visualize that child, that part of you, and uh, carefully ask them to come closer to you, give them a hug, and reintegrate them into you. You'll
Mm.
physically feel it. Um, so the benefits are that immediately you feel more whole. I know that's a people don't like that more whole, but it's that aspect of you comes back in. And some
Yes.
people can fragment off because it creates like a wound. And once you become, I guess, used to fragmenting, because you aren't very good at self-soothing or self-healing yourself in a
Yeah, it
moment,
becomes
like
a strategy. Yeah.
it becomes a strategy, and so you can have lots and lots of fragments floating around. Obviously, because I don't do it in age regression anymore, I use my pendulum and my diagnostics tools again to find where there's soul fragmentation and reintegrate, and that it's done with me and the spiritual team that I use.
Mm.
But again, it's the same thing. It's just somebody wouldn't somebody wouldn't understand Somebody wouldn't understand the effect of it unless they just feel better. Do you know what I mean? It's like the difference between feeling a bit blah and then
Yeah.
something happens in your life and it's like you got sunshine back in your life.
Yeah, well, a lot of these fragments cause differences in behavior and almost, I would almost even say knee-jerk reactions to situations, but
Yes.
just unconscious. And you're like, why did I do that? And you're like, you
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's self-sabotaging behavior as well. Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of different ways. And I just recommend people find someone or a method that resonates with them and the way that they work with energy in the world.
yeah,
You know, there are many different practitioners who do this in different ways and find a way that works for you because my way isn't necessarily going to be your way.
yeah, yeah. I found for myself gratitude process worked really well. Before I would go to sleep, I would send back gratitude down through my timeline, all through
Yep.
my childhood, to say thank you for all the experiences that you had, both positive and negative, and you can release all of the trauma around that now. And I did that with myself for years, and it sort of cleared up so much stuff. It worked
Yeah.
so well. Yeah,
Yeah. And I guess once you can do that, what you're doing is you are then ready to teach yourself self-soothing patterns.
yeah,
The more that you can be aware. That's what Buddhism taught me quite so profoundly, and was important to getting to where I was ready to start doing what I'm doing now is being aware of the emotion as it rises rather than after it rose.
mm,
Um, and being aware as it's rising, not to suppress it and shove it back down, but to let it rise, and then use your set of tools that you have, whatever they may be, to help yourself with that emotion. So my very first attempts at learning how to do that was with aromatherapy.
yeah,
The olfactory system is a powerful way to soothe emotions so that you can then have the space to process that emotion, and just allow yourself to be human. Other people use music very well. Other people use exercise, gratitude, whatever it is. Some people journal. I can't journal for the life of me to save me. And I have to tell you, gratitude has been one of those things where I've been like, oh, that's such a geek thing to do. um, but yeah, you have to find the tool that it's like we meet people and practitioners in our life to show us this array of things that we can put in our tool
yeah,
bag,
yeah,
toolkit. And in different times, depending upon what you're faced with, your brain will completely blank out. And if you happen to have one of those tools sitting near you, like aromatherapy, essential oils on an essential oil burner, or you can get a fresh lime and smell it, or whatever it is, you might chastise yourself after for going, why didn't I do this? I knew how to do that. I didn't know how to do that. But in that moment, when your amygdala was firing and you were in that fear state,
yeah,
you did the thing that is integrated the most for you for self-healing and self-soothing. Brilliant. Congratulations, you deserve a trophy because you actually did something beneficial. It doesn't matter that it wasn't the 74 other things that you learned how to do. You did the
sis,
most
yeah,
ingrained one. And
mm,
if you could teach somebody else how to find their number one thing to
yeah,
self-soothe, the world
yeah,
becomes a better place.
absolutely. Yeah, it starts to spread the healing.
Yeah.
Mm. What can individuals expect from embarking on a transformative journey with you as their guide towards inner harmony and holistic well-being?
Um,
How does that play out? I'm
they
coming
can
for a session. What's going to happen?
Yeah, so I work with people a month at a time, and it's remotely, meaning that you're not involved,
Right.
other than for filling out a very, very, very long form and having an initial meeting with me and maybe some coaching sessions. I do it all remotely, all by myself.
Okay.
And then I give them reports on what I have removed. So in my old way of doing things, it was very you intensive. You had to go into a hypnotic state. We were on Zoom and we went into regression to remove these things.
Yes.
It was energetically intense for me to hold the energy for the session. It's energetically intense for you. And then there was recovery time afterwards. This new way that I've learnt and trained myself to use my own biophotonic energy means that it's energetically intense for me, but you can go off and live your life.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that's finding out stuff. And you don't need to know all the details because I used to think that you needed to know everything. That was really, really important that you knew all the things that you'd done so you could take full self responsibility, this, that, and the other. And what I've learned is that you need to know some key things. You need to know the executive summary, but you don't need to know all the fine print because we don't want you to start shaming, blaming, and guilt tripping all over again.
You don't want reattachment.
No, we don't want reattachment. And we actually, if you understand that there's only stuff to visit really in the Akashic records and in your past lives, unless you're doing a curiosity trip for the purpose of healing, then we just want to heal that memory so that you can concentrate on your current life. We don't want you to become obsessed with the fact that you were so and so in a past life and you did this and go and read 700 books on that person. We want you to heal what needs to be healed so that you can be you right now and do what you're here to do this time around. We don't want the past holding you back. We want you to be in the present moment. So that's why I do it remotely and I just give an executive summary of what's happening, what I've done in each session. It's kind of like when you go to a solicitor and they might give you a report on how they spent their minutes. That's what I do is I give a report. This resulted in this.
Okay.
And then we let it sit and I'll say, okay, just going to give you some integration time. Then I'm going to do my next session, which you're not involved with. And people will come back and they'll talk to me on Zoom and they'll say, well, this happened this week and this is how I'm feeling. Because it's all done in layers, yeah. But what I start out with is I map out. I have an Excel spreadsheet where I have your soul's 144 incarnations.
Yeah.
And I find the 12 that you are responsible for because we are responsible for 12, but we have the other ones as well. So your personality that you feel responsible for is 12 incarnations, and then I work with those 12 to start with to clear what's in those 12. And then if we need to, then we go back to the rest of them. So it's quite technical, and the client doesn't need to be bogged down in all of that. And sometimes I don't even need to know the specifics because privacy is of the utmost importance.
Yes.
It's simply there was a past life and we need to do this because it's your past lives, not mine. So I respect the sanctity of that. I'm just here to help those past lives, not affect your present life.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay.
That
I
kind of makes
understand
sense.
that process. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So the world is going a bit awry at the moment, and obviously a lot of people are feeling stuff. How can people work with that consciously, considering all the skills and understanding that you have?
Well, firstly, it comes back to every single thought that you have. You have to be aware, is that my thought? Is that a thought that's collectively from the city I live in, the country I live in? Is it a global thought? Or do I identify with that thought? Why do I identify with that thought? Is it empowering me or disempowering me? Is it a reoccurring thought? Why might I be having this thought? What am I doing to add energy to this thought if it's a negative thought? And then working with responsibility to say, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my emotions, but I have power to identify with and work with emotions and thoughts. Like that's the very first basic thing, because when you can do that, you can identify really, people don't sit there and think about the thoughts that they're having. They just let them have them. And you don't need to have all those thoughts. And you don't need to identify with those thoughts. So cleanliness in your mind is really important. That's the first step. Really become aware of your own thinking.
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guest was talking about how we're basically just a receiver. And at times we can receive stuff that it sounds like it's our thoughts, but it's not our thoughts.
Yeah, we have
And
great transmission radio station. Yeah,
yeah. So we can pick it up and just put it into ourselves and go, oh, okay, well, I'm thinking that now, but it doesn't necessarily have to be you. So we
absolutely
can,
not. It's because there's so many layers and dimensions of beings that are around you
yeah,
that you can pick up on their thoughts.
exactly.
Um, so yeah, you have to. It's about getting to know yourself and what you truly think and truly value.
Yes,
Because anything that's not aligned with that is not you.
that's right. Yeah. Question things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Question things. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. And same with spiritual teaching. If everything that I've said today does not resonate with you, put it in the trash bin.
yeah,
This is my reality.
yeah.
It's what resonates with me. And I am not imposing my belief systems on anyone. That's
Mm,
one of the good things I got out of Buddhism was they said, check, does it resonate with you? No,
yes.
not for you.
A good message. So, Katish, how do people find you and avail themselves of your services?
Yeah, so the best way to find me is to go to my website, which is just my name, katische.com, Katische.com. You can listen to my podcast to listen to all the case studies. They're live case studies of sessions. They're of my old modality because they're a year old. I'm a year behind with the podcast, but you get the principles and the teachings to open your mind to what's possible.
Mm.
I'm on Facebook and YouTube. I only do two social media, Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, right. Great. Okay. So, yeah, if people, yeah, I think they need to follow you up. It's been a great show talking to you about your perspective on healing and the way you work with people and your understanding of the spirit world. And it's opened my eyes to other ways as well. I mean, the idea of all layers of time being a part of the healing method as well is yeah, I've never thought of that before. That's interesting. Very cool.
Yeah. If people want to look out for Tina Irwin's books, she's a person that taught me about the stacks of time. She has a lot of books about ghosts, and she's
Yeah.
very good at explaining better than I can how the layers of time affect a property. It's really fascinating if that's your jam.
Yeah. Well, I've actually talked to Tina a few podcasts back, and
Okay.
yeah, she didn't talk about the layers of time, so
Okay. Yeah.
I might have to get her back on for that. Sounds cool.
Yeah. She's the one who taught me about the fact that a property can be hurt through the layers of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because we have layers of time, which is just past lives. So the Earth has layers of time.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure, it does. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Katisha. I appreciate it, and yeah, I look forward to talking to you again in the future. I'd like to
Thank
hear
you.
how you actually evolve with this because you're on a big path. That's cool.
Yeah. It's been interesting.
All right. I'll say bye for now. Well, that was an interesting show. I mean, seriously, Katisha's doing some quite wild things there. And the understanding of working through all layers of time is huge. I'd never thought of it in that sort of way. I mean, I've thought of it working with your own personal ancestors, but what about all the time spaces that are actually involved in that as well, that are running parallel at the same time? So yeah, big work there. And I'm sure you'll enjoy the show as much as have enjoyed the show as much as I have. And if you have, please reach out to Katisha and tell her because that was so interesting. Okay. So if you've got something you'd like to share on the show and you want to get in contact with me, please contact me at supernormalized@proton.me. And if you could, please share this show to a friend that really needs to hear about this sort of work. We'd really appreciate it. And I'm sure Katisha would appreciate it as well. So again, thank you for your time and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.